G'day everyone, Big Aussie Pepper here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about water. Obviously it's a very important topic and one which is quite large. If we were to do one video for everything I wanted to talk about with water, then we'd be here for quite some time. So today is just an introduction. Let me show you today's worksheet. In the rule of 3, you can only survive for 3 days without water, but if you go for more than a day, you're not going to be in good shape. If you are working out, it is hot, or you're exerting yourself, you'll need more too. But how much can you store and does water go off? Let's explore a few facts and get you started preparing water. Note, the following is a guide, you should be doing your own research too. One of the main things we need water for, obviously, is to drink. But how much should you drink? There is no actual number, there are some guidelines and one useful rule, which we'll cover in just a moment. 8 cups a day is too broad. I mean, like, what size are your cups? And, how much are you putting in them? And saying 2 to 3 litres in hot weather is fine, if you can manage it. The golden rule, pun intended there, is to look at your pee colour. If it is the colour of pale straw, you're good for now, but that can change quickly. Other tests include pinching the skin on the back of your hand and seeing how long it takes for it to return to normal. If it's a few seconds, you need to hydrate fast. Completely clear pee actually means you are overhydrated, so lay off the water for a little bit. Check out the chart for a good guide and tips on what else can change your colour. So there are some other things that could cause pee to change colour. I know if you have too many vitamins, for example, that can make your pee very dark as well. A bit of a guide there. And if you're getting sort of past sort of numbers 3 and 4 here, then you really need to sit down and get out the sun maybe and get some water into you. And there are some other options to help you hydrate as well, which we'll be discussing a bit later. A few storage ideas I wanted to jot down, sort of a free-flowing document here. You can buy bottled and jug water. Some of those have a handy little spigot or tap on them so you can get the water out easily. They're quite handy even to wash your hands. You can have one over your sink if your water goes out. You can turn that on and wash your hands that way. You could save old fizzy drink bottles, wash them well and dry them. You can even collapse them so that they're not filled with water. You can have them stored. Consider a water bob. There's a link down there to have a look at. It's basically a large I said plastic bag, it's not quite the right term, but check out the link and you'll see it. It goes in your bathtub, and if you're expecting some bad conditions to come, you can fill that up and have quite a few litres of water stored there. For your own personal carry, you could consider a double or single insulated water bottle for your EDC. Now I say double or single. Double is really good if you want to have some nice cold water on you, but you should never use that to boil water in because it can go kaboom. So you want a single layered bottle for that kind of work. Water catchment from roof. I've actually currently got just a very old water tank and I'm looking to hopefully revamp that soon into a complete water collection and filtration system. So more on that one to come. Large water safe containers. So you can get things from Bunnings even, large the blue containers that are designed specifically for storing water. Your spa or pool, if you have one, it's usually not recommended to drink that stuff. A lot of chlorine and other things in them, but it could be good for washing clothes, or it could be good for putting on the garden, maybe. Obviously, you put too much chlorine on your plants, they're not going to be impressed. There's some ideas for storage. I think you guys could come up with some as well. The one which I'm going to be going for mostly for my family is going to be buying the jug and bottled water and collecting water from the roof. For the jugs, we have a bit of a calculation down below, but you can get a 10 litre jug for about $4. I usually get mine from Safeway. I've noticed the one from Coles actually do have the little spigot on them, so keep an eye out for those. A very important question, one that I was asking myself and one that I had to do some research on, was can you store tap water and does it go off? According to thoughtco.com, the short answer is yes, you can store it, and no, it doesn't go off. At least in places with treated water. So if you know your water supply is good, I have heard that quite a few places in America, they really need to filter their water a lot before it becomes safe to drink. And that's their tap water as well. So in Australia, most places where we get our water from the tap, it's already been treated with chlorine and things like fluoride and stuff as well. So have a think about your local area. You need to store it in clean and safe containers, ones that have not had chemicals stored in it. For example, some good ones are plastic, glass, enameled metal, or fiberglass is also an option. You really need to make sure though that no chemicals have been stored in it. For example, an old empty bleach bottle, and you go, ah, good, that's plastic. But no, because the bleach has leached into the plastic and will slowly leach back into your water. Preferably rotate your water out every 6 months. So water doesn't technically go bad. You could boil it and sterilize it, which is going to be a whole separate video on how do you treat water. But for safety, about every 6 months you should be throwing it out and rotating it. And when I say throw out, pour it on the garden, you probably even give it to your pets. As it says here though, if your water turns green, it's probably algae in it, and you should just use it to water your plants. Not much more you can do about that once your water turns green. Even if you were to treat it, I don't think it'd be worth the risk. How much water do you need and for what? Well, this depends, as I mentioned, on your sort of how hot it is where you are and your physical exertion level. It is easy to get dehydrated in the cold as well because you don't feel like drinking, but you often need just as much. You need water for drinking, cooking, washing and personal hygiene, being able to wash yourself as well. And don't forget about your pets too. Other topics that we will be covering in future videos include storage, purification, testing, automation, so how you can actually set up for automatic filtering, using water as a bartering tool, how you transport water, because that would be, I think, quite difficult, cooking and flavoring. What things could you add to your water? We mentioned in the previous video about preparing for an Australian summer, adding things to your water like Gatorade and Hydrolite being the preferred choice there. So a few other things and thoughts that I've had about flavoring, which we'll cover in a future video. So how do you work out how much water you actually need to store? I've come up with the equation here in brackets, L times P times N, where L is the number of litres you want to store. So by default, I usually aim for 4 litres. And if you're in a hotter climate, consider that to be maybe 8. The P is the number of people in your family. There's 4 by default there, that's not by default. That was for the litres, so just fix that on the fly there. I'll fix up the PDF. And then N is the number of days you wish to prepare for. So in this equation, the number of litres you want to store per person, so that's what L times P is. And then when you have that number, then you need to times it by the number of days that you want to prepare for. So for example down here, 4 litres per person, 4 litres per person for a group of 5, 21 days, that's a total of 3 weeks. You would need at least 420 litres. Here's a little tip there, buy 1 or 2 jugs each time you go to the shops. That way you're not hit with sort of trying to do it all in one blow, doing $168 worth of water. And each time you go to the shop, adding $4 to your daily or your weekly shopping is a nice simple way to start adding some water to your storage. The other things that I should actually add on here, it is highly recommended that you don't actually store your water directly onto concrete. If you have a concrete slab, for example, out in the shed, then what I've heard is that some of the things from the concrete can leach into your containers. So I might have to add that into this document. There's always extra things to add. I want to leave more blank space in these so you can write your own notes, but I end up filling them up completely. I want to know from you guys, what are your tips for people to start getting prepared with water? Once again, this is not a comprehensive list, and it's a good way just to get started. Keep in mind, particularly in these hot months in Australia, to keep yourself hydrated and to start putting a little bit of water aside. As you can see here, we have quite a few topics that we'll be covering coming up soon as well. But I want you guys to give me some feedback. What other things should I add to this one? What other topics should we cover in the future? So until next time, don't forget, you can't beat a grey man, beat a big man. See yous.